Hi, I'm Annie. Today is January 20th, 2021. Today I'm going to talk about how to know when to go easy on yourself and when to put on the pressure. In the past year, I've worked with a few people who are dealing with self-discipline. Many people are working from home during the pandemic and have found their lives much less structured. Some of them have found themselves without supervision for the first time in their working lives. They're in a position now where they have to structure their own days and discipline themselves in order to get work done. In addition to less structure in the workplace, the free time is also very unstructured because we don't have all of these social events. We don't have, the birthdays, the Friday nights out at the bar, and all the social things that people are used to. I've been mostly self-employed for my entire working life. I've always been a little bit naturally self-disciplined, self-motivated, self-entertained, but I think I've cultivated the self-discipline even more as I've matured in self-employment. But discipline, direction, and structure used to be much, much harder for me. But until recently, it had really been a while since I felt that way, since I felt that pain of not really knowing how to direct myself and structure my time. Then the first week of January hit, and I found myself feeling very, very different to the way that I would normally feel on January 1st. Usually I'm high off the fumes of hopeful resolutions, and I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and get to work. This January 1st, I felt an incredible fatigue and a sort of malaise. I had all my resolutions ready to go, but I just felt really low energy and kind of listless. I'm incredibly proud of the way I handled my attitude throughout 2020. And prior to 2020, I had been working on my attitude, and it just so happened that all that work I went into shifting my perception about reality and cultivating, problem solving and being solution minded just paid off real big in 2020 when everything went sideways and the world was crazy. Shit kept hitting the fan. I'm sure you remember. And I kept rallying over and over and over. I'm very proud of that. And 2020 was a great year for me, but it wasn't necessarily easy. And there was an awful lot of processing collective grief. The sickness, the death, the sadness of the children who are at a developmental age where they need to socialize. They need to socialize like they need food and water. It's incredibly important, and my heart breaks for the children. So it was a draining year. Even though I kept rallying, it was still really, really draining. And on January 1st, it's like all that caught up to me. It was just like the collective weight of everything that had happened in the last year. I just felt exhausted. Not really the way you want to feel on January 1st, when normally I would be excited about new beginnings, but I just felt so tired. One thing I was really aware of was an issue with low blast. So my animals are consume, sleep, blast, and play. Blast is pretty low down there, and that's something that I've had to work on in my life. And I was feeling that big time the first 10 days of the new year, which is really hard to get started on anything and really hard to organize my thoughts as well. Now, this was remarkable because I hadn't really struggled with low blast in a while. So I thought back to my past and my struggles with low blast, and I asked myself, what did I do to override the low blast and actually get started and get shit done? So one thing I noticed when I looked back is that something shifted, and I decided to just permanently adopt the attitude of just get started, just take action, just take the first step. So that became my philosophy. And I really had to, let go of the consume and let go of a kind of a perfectionism and just put one step forward. After doing that a few times, that just became my new normal. I just knew as an adult, as a grown-up, that that was the right thing to do. There's discomfort, there's hesitation, but you just make a start anyway. And it did feel awkward at first, but just like many things, if you do it a few times, it just becomes the new normal. Another thing I realized in looking back on my past is that I had really learned how to override FI. I have masculine FI. I'm not really sure how, or, I think it was from running, when I started running. And, running is about leaning into the discomfort, not to an insane degree, not talking about, pissing blood in order to cross a finish line. I'm just talking about leaning into the discomfort, overriding your FI in order to accomplish a goal. I think I learned that from from my experience in long distance running, which is something that I began around age 37. I think that is when I got more and more efficient at overriding my FI to just get the job done. And it's like there's an adult inside of me that is just speaking to the FI saying, life isn't always about what you want. If you don't eat your meat, how can you have any pudding? So I'll say stuff to myself like, take this stupid, tedious, continuing education class, and then I'll allow you to work on your art for the rest of the afternoon. Or actually turn in your application for your professional license renewal and I'll let you buy a new guitar. So there's a little bit of negotiating with myself there. I have to negotiate with my FI as if it's a spoiled, rotten 5-year-old. So I just got used to getting up and getting shit done. It just became my new normal. And I think partially because I'm self-employed, I really felt like I needed to prove myself. Because I had so much free, unstructured time, I felt like I need to have something to show for this at the end of the day. Getting shit done became normal. So another thing that I noticed is that some time ago, I started to do my last function first. So I have masculine SI. It does help that it's masculine because I'm pretty aware of the SI. So I started a habit a few years ago of checking in with SI every single day, first thing in the morning. So every morning, I go over the boring, actual, factual tasks that need to be done this week, this month, this year. And I rearrange the tasks. I think about which ones I'm going to do this week, which ones I'm going to do today, which ones I'm going to do tomorrow, every day, even though I just looked at the list yesterday. It's just a reevaluating, refamiliarizing myself with just the basic physical shit that needs doing. So then I decide today, what are a few things I'm going to do, and in what order am I going to do those things? And then I stick to that plan. I do those tasks in that order, which is a logical order that I have chosen. I follow through because I said I would, so that when I get to the end of the day, I can feel proud. I did the things that I said I was going to do. And I wasn't always like this. And I think what happened was that the pain of not getting shit done just became greater than actually doing the boring, tedious stuff. I mean, it feels weird at first to override your FI and do shit you don't want to do. The reward of doing the boring organizational shit is not being overwhelmed. Having sleep so high in my animal stack, I do have a tendency to rest and preserve too much. So I have to really watch myself. Are you taking more rest and time to reflect than you actually need? You know, and someone with sleep last has the opposite problem, where they're not taking enough time to rest and process. So when it came to January 1st and I felt just utterly exhausted, fatigued, I decided to just go with it. I decided to rest. January 1st was on the weekend. The real week didn't start until it was Monday, January 4th. And so I thought, I'm just going to take this rest and I'll get going on Monday. And I felt pretty confident in that decision, that it was the right decision because I have such a good track record. I know that I get shit done. I know that I'm disciplined. So if I'm really feeling like I need to rest, I trust myself. So when Monday came around, I was still feeling pretty tired and unmotivated. And that's when I got kind of nervous and uncomfortable. I sort of felt like, oh my God, I'm reverting back to my old self, my old, low blast, do nothing, laze around, get nothing done, just, living life in my head, entertaining concepts, just flowing with the innie, but not getting anything actually done in real life. It started to make me nervous. So I thought, if a client had the same issue and was saying these same things, what would I tell my client? And, very simply, I would just say, refer to your to-do list, pick 1 or 2 things that you can get yourself to do and do them. And then after you do those, you can rest. It's so simple. It's so helpful to have that to-do list to fall back on. I don't need to put a lot of brain power into what needs to be done because I've put a little bit of brain power into that every day, every morning when I check on my list. And there are a variety of things that need to be done that I can choose from. And if my energy is really low, I just pick the really low-hanging fruit. There's always dishes that need to be washed and wood that needs to be chopped. I might not necessarily have the energy to do my taxes, but I can organize one file drawer. So I had this tedious professional license renewal thing hanging over my head that was pretty draining and stressful. I decided I need to look at that task of renewing my license and really, really break it down into tiny steps. So that way I could just do one step at a time. Then it was really easy for me to decide, okay, today I think that I can at least renew my CPR card. I felt so much better after I did that. I did that one thing on Monday the 4th, and then I let myself be and plan to do another thing on Tuesday. And that's kind of how the first 10 days of January looked for me. I was just making it real easy on myself and just doing one or two things a day. Then January 6th came around, and that's when the Capitol building was sieged, and I was listening to it on the radio, and that just took all the wind right back out of my sails. Just felt immediately exhausted again. I was just so embarrassed and disappointed about what has been happening in my country, and I just felt instantly exhausted. But I just rolled through it and stuck with the plan of getting just a few small tasks done every day. And then within that first 10 days, my partner's father got COVID-19 and died very quickly, just within a few days. So that was another really heavy thing. So it was just like a really bumpy start to the new year. You know, lots of processing and lots of heavy, heavy things. And my partner and I had decided that we were going to drink much, much less in the new year and kind of reserve alcohol for special occasions. And so here we are within the first 10 days of not drinking, and my partner wanted to go buy a bottle of scotch because his father died. And I said, yes, of course, of course, this is appropriate. And so we drank the scotch together, and he reminisced about his childhood and told me a lot of stories about his father. And this was the same process that he used when his mother died a few years ago. And so even though I'd made this rule, like, okay, no drinking in January, you have to kind of feel it out and know when to break your own rules. That was appropriate because it was a special occasion, and it's very helpful to my partner to process in that way, sipping scotch together and reminiscing. So it's good to make rules for yourself and stick to them, but how do you know when it's okay to break your rules or when you need to go a little bit easier on yourself? I think that it's a subtle wisdom that comes over time, but you can also look at it objectively. Like if you're measuring in percentages, like what is the percentage of getting shit done to fucking off? And aim for something reasonable. You don't have to be highly efficient every moment of the day, but you do need to be chipping away at the to-dos. And you can really look at that objectively by having a list, by checking in with your to-do list every day. And just notice and be very, very honest with yourself how much you're getting done. And also realize that we are animals. We're human animals, and human animals lay around in the sun and they rest and they take naps. But it has to be a balance. So it's very normal and human to fuck off a little bit. Resting and relaxing is an extremely important part of your efficiency overall. So I think if there's some way that you can look as objectively as possible at what you're doing and how you're using your time and kind of devise a system to evaluate your own efficiency, it puts you in a good position to find that balance of getting enough done, but also resting and reflecting enough. So there are days when my energy is really low and I still get shit done, just a few things. And there are other days when my energy is really high. I jump on that high energy and I use it and I get even more things done. But the to-do list is just infinite. The to-do list never ends. And so it's just sort of like a rolling list of things that need to get done. And then there are the things that are going to get done this week. And then there are the things that are going to get done today. But that general list is so big. Don't get distracted and overwhelmed by that. Really think strategically about what should be done today. What should be done in this first half of the day? What should be done in the next 20 minutes? And just focus on that one thing so that you don't get overwhelmed. I'm feeling a lot better now. I'm feeling more and more productive every day. And it's still just like an up and down thing. Some days you get a lot of shit done and some days you just get one or two things done. It's just how it goes. But I think if you're honest with yourself and you're really observing yourself as accurately as possible, you can get better at knowing when to put the pressure on and when to ease off and, let yourself just fuck off a little bit. That's really all I have to say about that. If you'd like to chat with me about this or anything else within reason, you can schedule a one-on-one video chat with me. Just check out my snug link in the description.